Hi, everyone. It's Bob Ost. It's Friday. It's, what is it, May 12th? What is it? I always forget the date. May 12th. This is our 155th consecutive week of doing conversations about theater. We started this April 17th, 2020, for those of you who don't know, and most people do by now, but there might be people that don't. We started this as a response to COVID. We were an organization, New York-based, did all of our projects live. I had an aversion to virtual. I had an aversion to technology. And then shutdown happened, and it was like, well, I have to find something to do, or I'm going to have to shut down my company for a little while. So somebody took my hand and introduced me to Mr. Zoom. And Mr. Zoom and I have become good friends. And so we opened up a room, and we had people come from the near the beginning of shutdown, so that they could have a place to be with other people and talk about theater and not feel alone, not feel isolated. And it turned out to be a really major thing for us, because we've grown, like, we've doubled our size, I guess, since before the pandemic. Even more though, I said we were a New York-based company. We are no longer New York-centric. Congratulate us. We now know that there's a world outside of New York, because I have people coming into this room every week from everywhere. Haven't had anybody from outside the country in a while, but we have members who come in all the time. We have a lot of people in Australia. We have people in UK. We have people other areas of like Scotland and Ireland and Malaysia, Singapore. It's been thrilling to meet people. So even though here we are back in the live world with live performance, even though we're here in a post-pandemic era, and the World Health Organization is declared as of today, I think, officially, COVID is no longer a world threat. I'm not giving up Zoom. So there, I'm going to keep doing this so that I can have people like you, people who are watching us randomly from wherever you are right now. I want you to be able to be part of this. Speaking of which, if you want to be in the room, podcast and YouTube viewers, just email me, trunltd@aol.com. It's that simple. Email me at trunltd@aol.com. And I'll send you an invitation to our Zoom every week, and you can be part of the conversation. So today, I'm having a really good friend. This is a conversation today that kind of shaped itself during the course of the week. Originally, I had Christin Eve Cato, who she used to work for TRU. She used to be with us, and she was like a very valued member of our community. Also, Christin, I want to acknowledge the fact that you put together some of our very early conversations about diversity. This was before it became trendy. This is like 10 years ago.
It's true. It's true. We were doing the work a long time ago.
Yeah, we really were doing our best. We're trying to get the conversations going. So Christin is back with us, and I was very excited. I got an email from WP Theatre, which used to be Women's Project, so forgive me that I went to the old name. I got an email saying that there's a play opening called Sancocho by Christin Eve Cato. Oh my God, I was so excited. So I asked Cato if she wanted to, Cato, I asked Christin.
That people call me Cato. You already know. Yeah, it's fine.
So I asked Christin if she wanted to come on and talk about her path to getting this production on. And I also took note of the fact, very important note of the fact, that it had 3 producers attached to it. It had WP Theatre. It also had Latinx Playwrights unit, Circle. And it had the Soul Project. And I thought it was very interesting that there was a collaboration going on. I wanted to find out more about that. And as it turned out, over the course of this week, we were lucky enough to get somebody from the Soul Project and somebody from Latinx Playwrights Circle here with us today. So I'm going to bring them all in, and I'm going to introduce you to, you just met Christin Eve Cato already, but here's Adriana Gaviria, and we also have Janio Marrero. Quickly, because I know that Christin has to leave at 6.
Mhm.
I want to get to know a little bit of a quick background on Soul Project and Playwright, the Latinx Playwrights Circle. Who wants to go first? Janio, why don't you go first?
You're asking for background?
Yeah. Tell us about the people in the room don't necessarily know your companies. And we're going to actually eventually put it together and find out how you worked together and created a production, which is what everybody really wants to know.
Especially our company, because our company is relatively young, but the folks that created it and that worked for it have been around for a while. Latinx Playwright Circle was originally founded around 2017, 2018. We became an entity in 2019. We basically were organically formed out of the need for developmental work between playwrights, but more specifically Latinx playwrights. It started as a group for playwrights to gather and just work in there with their material. Sunday meetings every couple weeks. And that grew into what we have today, which is a full theater company, playwright space that develops at every stage of the play, from conception to the stage, in a variety of programs that we've created.
I definitely want to go into more details about, but I also want to stress the fact that you were founded and created pre-COVID. So
yes.
We're going to talk about how Sancocho started with what I think was a virtual workshop at that point, wasn't it?
So actually, Sancocho, I started writing that in 2020 when LPC started hosting their Sunday Kikis online, because it was pandemic time, right? And so we were just like, oh, they're moving from, and this is while I was in grad school at Indiana. So I was very lucky that things moved online, because then I was able to participate. So, but just as what you were saying earlier, Bob, about like Zoom, how it kind of like changed our worlds in many ways. But yeah, so I was able to participate in those Sunday Kikis where I would bring in like 10 pages of Sancocho weekly, and just read it with the group and get feedback and that sort of thing. So
we're gonna come back to that, because I want to meet Adriana. So tell us about the Soul Project.
Sure. So around 2012, there was a large convention in Boston of Latina theater makers.
Can you go a little closer to your mic? We're not hearing you very well.
Oh, you're not hearing me very well? Okay.
That's better.
I am limited to my surroundings. So yes, so around 2012, there was a large group of Latina theater makers that met in Boston. And one of the attendees was Jacob Padron. And part of the conference, or the encuentro that was there.
Jacob Padron is a major name in Latino theater. So let's let everybody, because not everybody knows that.
Jacob Padron is currently the artistic director at Longmore Theater, and is also the co-artistic director of the Soul Project, and I'm the second artistic director of the Soul Project. So one of the things that attendees were asked was to name something that you want to create, something that is necessary in the field. And so he stood up and said, I want to create the Soul Project. Of course, not really knowing yet what that would be. And so around that time, I was also part of Encuentro, where I met Christin in LA, working at the Encuentro that happened in Los Angeles at LAPC. And so I came back to New York really inspired and motivated by all the Latinx theater makers that I met in LA. And that's when I was connected to Jacob, and we started meeting as a group in 2014 for 2 years about what we wanted the Soul Project to be. And then we launched in 2016. So what is the Soul Project? It was just a group of artists that got together. We were seeing that there were a lot of readings, but not a lot of productions. So we wanted to commit to having productions produced on Broadway, and we partnered with Off-Broadway theaters and also with organizations and theaters across the country.
I'm going to come back to you and ask you how that happened, because you say it like it's like, like it just, we just did it. And after all the years that I've been in this business, I know that it didn't just happen. It was probably a lot of conversations about it before anything started taking shape. I want to focus on Christin for a little while, because I know that we're going to lose her at 6. So Christin, I had so many questions for you, and they're not going to get asked in 15 minutes. Quickly, let's talk about how you found your way. Well, I guess the path was, you sort of laid it out. You found your way to Latinx Playwrights Circle first, or did you? And how did Soul Project come into your world? Well, you guys knew each other, so
yeah.
I guess it's not a simple narrative. It's just...
Yeah, and we all know each other in the Latino theater community, like it's a small community, and we all see each other, know each other, collaborate together. And so I think, I mean, like when Soul Project had its first production, like I remember that, like I remember it was Alligator, right? By Hilary Betis. And at that time, I was still like in like, just working in the acting field. Like I was still acting. And then
you were actually a member. You were a member of the Bats at the Flea.
At some point, yeah, I was a Bat. I was a Unit 52 member at Intar Theater. I was also part of the Raul Julia, training unit. That's when I started at the Puerto Rican Traveling Theater, where I'm at right now. This is Miriam Colon's office space.
Oh, that's so amazing.
Right
I was just about to ask you about Miriam Colon.
Yeah.
But before you even mentioned Puerto Rican Traveling, because she was one of the people that I was most familiar with all these years.
Yeah. She was like a mentor. I mean, when I started playwriting, it was also here at the playwriting unit, where she would come like bi-weekly, like, cause we would meet weekly, but she would come like bi-weekly. And, she has such a dramaturgical mind. I mean, she would come and like read over all of our play, or like, the pages we would bring in, and she just had remarkable feedback. And she was just so intelligent and wise, and,
kind and
kind. Yeah. Oh, I miss her.
She was a legend.
I still feel her presence in here.
Yeah, that's 46th.
47th.
47th. I've been in there. I've been there. Oh boy. So let me get you back here.
So Soul. I mean, for Soul Project. I mean, I think I did like a reading with Soul Project at some point, but then also during the pandemic, we did a whole virtual thing, which was fun too. So, I mean, I had always been, we were already collaborators. We were already, we knew each other. We had a relationship.
It's community, basically. It always comes back to community. That's why we created community here. We'd like a lot more diversity in our community, and we're working on it, but we all find our communities. So let me ask you, you were part of a lab with Latinx Playwrights Circle, and you were bringing in 10 pages at a time, or whatever you were bringing. Did you have a vision of this piece at the beginning, being a full-length play, or did you know what it was when you started?
Yeah. That's a great question. So, I mean, this is, as I said earlier, I was living in Indiana, and I was away from my family, who were all like here in New York. And my grandmother at the time, she was in hospice for, she had Alzheimer's. And I remember just like missing my family. I missed everyone, all the women in my family. And I just wanted to write something in honor of them. And I knew that going into what it was going to be. And I just felt like I needed to write something. it had to come from this deep part of me that needed to heal or needed to remember my roots, because like I had felt so far away from everything, and then like death was like around the corner all the time, and it was just a scary time, and I wanted to immortalize these women who, you know, I admire and have learned so much from.
Yeah, Elizabeth Copeland comments, because she does this as for her, it's one of the things she does. Out of grief comes art. She does a lot of I think it's books that she writes about art and grief. So the next step that we have here is, well, let's, Janio, tell me a little bit more about your company and about how many writers do you have, and is it a constantly shifting series of people, or are there some core members? And other than, well, how do people become part of your group?
I'll start backwards. How do
Okay.
people become part of the group? They show up. We're open to anyone that identifies as Latinx, that is a playwright or is an actor or is a director or has an inkling towards writing or wants to tell stories in any way, shape, or form and can work within our programming. They're invited. And if you're not a playwright, we can still use you because we're always casting. We're always doing readings. We're always doing developmental workshops, and now we're doing plays. But you know, we do need to, for us, it's important to focus on the Latinx playwrights, the ones who always seem to fall behind in all the other developmental programs that are around New York City and the country. They always get the one reading.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. It's sensitive area, and I think we should explore it. In terms of the theater communities in general, steps are being taken, whether they're successful or not is a question, to become more inclusive. And some people like giggle a little when they hear that, because things aren't always happening as quickly as we'd like them to. In terms of being part of a BIPOC community, what are the specific challenges of being Latinx, I guess we say now? Is it different? Is it the same? Are there fewer opportunities or more? Where do you think you lie in terms of a very difficult business to navigate?
There's never enough opportunities. And it never balances out between the audience that is out there that consumes and the amount of stories and the people working in those stories that represent us as Latinx from any country or any race and ethnicity. There's just not enough. There never has been. And to get to that point it's going to take a while, because right now we are maybe at like 9% of the representation in terms of actors, 3% in terms of stories. And this is overall in the industry, off-Broadway and Broadway.
And regionals.
Not counting regional is not part of that specific study that I'm quoting, but
okay.
But yeah, I mean, you can say regional and the numbers drop even further.
Yeah. So can you actually, for people out there who would like to know, can you talk about some other welcoming groups for Latinx playwrights? There must be others.
I mentioned, yeah. And at some point,
there's Intar.
Yeah, at some point, Intar had a playwrights lab. They don't really have that anymore. It was the Max Ferra one. And then, and there was one here at the Puerto Rican Traveling Theater that,
Alan, what was Alan's name?
Alan.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Alan something the third.
Yeah, Alan ran it, and then Mario and Andreas ran it. That's who I studied with. I think I met Alan, but he was very sick when I met him.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. But then so I was there for the transfer, over to Mario.
I think
So-
it's also important to identify that INTAR, it's a theater with a producing company, same as
Mhm.
Pregones PRTT, Repertorio, Teatro Círculo doesn't necessarily have its own
Yeah.
theater they rent. And what Soul Project and what LPC do is fairly different than that.
You guys do
There is-
development.
Yeah,
Y'all
there
do
ought to be-
development.
there ought to be a distinction.
Mhm.
so let me ask you this. What was the first step in the possibility of a production for Sancocho? Who was the
You
first
mean
one?
if
Who
you
was the
mean-
first one to step up and said, "We'll do this"? Was
Janio. It was
Janio?
Janio. Janio,
Okay.
yeah, Janio optioned it.
Yeah, we it was on our radar because it had been through our programs.
Mhm.
We saw the potential, but it also the growth and development of the play was significant that we decided to commit on this to be our first off-Broadway play. And it
By the way,
also helped-
just for clarification, to everybody, it was an actual off-Broadway run
Yeah.
at the WP Theater.
Mhm.
yeah,
It's, they're
also
still,
they
are
had
they
two
still in like
characters.
76th on the
Yeah.
17th floor? It's like way up there. It's like the 5th floor or something like that. Yeah, the
Third.
McGinn, because it used to be the McGinn Casal Theater. I don't know if it's still called that.
still is.
Mhm.
Oh, it is. Okay. So
Mhm.
Adriana, because I'm going to lose you soon, tell us a little bit more about Soul Project. What is your model? Are you a not-for-profit? Are you a commercial entity? What is it that you guys do when you're not doing Sancocho? What is it that you are looking to do in your goals as a company?
So the Soul Project is a little different. We started off as a collective, and so we were just doing, trying to do our thing, and didn't really formalize at all as far as a nonprofit. We will never be a nonprofit because we plan to sunset. Our goal was to produce 12 plays, and that's it. So we plan to end when we finish our 12th production. And so, yeah, we're not a nonprofit, we're an LLC.
You're an LLC, that's what I thought. So is Sancocho your first project?
No,
Eighth.
so,
8th? Okay. So tell us a little bit about the other projects that you've supported.
yes, so like Kristen mentioned, our first production, which probably would be
Oh, that was Alligator, is that what you said? Yeah, okay.
Alligator, yes. By
I
Hillary
listen.
Mendes. Which I think might be the most interesting to talk about, just because of what you asked, your question, like how do you get started? Those were the very questions that we asked ourselves. We had never done anything like that before, and very similarly to, I'm sure a lot of people here, I also started as a performer. Acting will always be my first love, and there were just not juicy enough roles for me, or enough work that I was satisfied. So entering producing was also very new for me. And being part of the Soul Project, I had to learn as I go. I didn't have any formal education in producing. I did have formal education. I do have my MFA from acting from Yale. And so when we started when we started having those conversations about who could we partner up with, we did realize that it was really important that we had to come into a partnership or a collaboration with money, so that we could make demands or start asking for things, having an artistic voice in this partnership. And that was a huge a hurdle, right? Because how do you do that? but we were at that time, Time Warner was one of the, we had a woman in Time Warner who has passed away since then, who really believed in what we were doing. And so we had funding to start with. And then the Miranda family was able to match that donation. That's kind of how we started at the very beginning. They both believed in what we wanted to do. There were not a lot of these type of initiatives happening. I think everyone was feeling the same, and I know a lot of groups kind of started around the same time, but at that point it was just a different landscape. And so for that, our first partnership, New George's, really took a gamble on us. We didn't really have funding at the time when they said yes. So we will, we'll always be grateful for them. They were just really excited by what we wanted to do. And it was really great. It was just that, it's that one person, that one company that says yes and that believes in you.
I'm going to
I was just looking at the comment. I was looking at the question in there.
Oh, I was just going to take a leap. It wasn't Lisa Quiroz, was it? You're at Time Warner?
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. I remember Lisa.
Yes, it was. It was Lisa.
Because I'm going to lose you guys in moments, questions from the room to Adriana and Christin, please, as quickly as you possibly can. Raise your virtual hands, put it in the chat. I don't want to lose these guys without you having a chance to ask them anything you want to know. Nobody's. Oh wait, Christin and Adriana. Forgive the blunt question, but did you think grad school was worth it? Would Sancocho have made it as far as it did otherwise? It's Anthony Gabrielli.
That's a good question.
It's a great question. It is a really great question. I don't think grad school is necessary. I think there's so many more opportunities now than there were before. I think before, grad school was maybe like the route that was recommended. There's so many self-producers, multi-hyphenated artists happening now. For me personally, it did help me because it expanded my network. I was able to build a lot of relationships, which helps when you're trying to produce stuff and just get yourself out there. And also just the craft, I was trained. And so I feel that it was a good experience for me, but it's not for everyone.
John Ewing, well, first of all, if you want to put your emails in the chat, that would be fine. If you would prefer that people contact you through me, we can do it that way as well. So that's up to you guys. John Ewing wants to know if you heard of the Odelco award-winning show Platano. I know the people that produced Platanos and Collard Greens. They were part of TRU for years. Yeah,
of course.
Incredibly long-running, successful piece, although they didn't feel successful. It was husband. What were their names? Oh my goodness, they were old friends of mine. I'm doing a quick search. Oh, I can't remember their names. This is terrible. I can't remember. Do you remember who the couple were? It was a guy and a woman. They were. I think they were married. Anyway. So the question, what is the question about Platanos? Whether you ever heard about it?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I remember it.
I remember it well. I remember it in many of its iterations. It just they kept bringing it back and bringing it back and bringing
Wasn't
it back.
Wasn't it at the Beacon?
At one time it was, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when it was at the Beacon.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. I think I was like I think I was in high school or something.
Oh dear, you were in high school.
Yeah, okay. That was in the early 2000s.
Me too.
It says 2003.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I was a junior. I remember it was like a junior in high school. I was going to LaGuardia High School, and we'd walk, which is on 66th Street, and so like that area, like all of like that area of the Upper West Side was just like my domain. So I just remember like walking to 72nd Street to catch a train there, and just like, passing to the Beacon, getting food, but like, passing the Beacon to get food. And I just remember that title on the awning, and I remember that title. And I thought to myself, because I'm Puerto Rican and Jamaican, and I thought to myself, oh shoot, like I'm plátanos and collard greens, because and it's just, I remember that feeling. I remember that response. And that's, I'm just like, I know it was at the Beacon, and I know I was in high school.
So again, I'm going to ask everybody in the audience, do you have any questions you want to ask Christin and Adriana before they have to run? Because Christin, have they started locking up your theater yet?
Not yet. They would have knocked on the door.
Okay.
Yeah.
David Lamb. Oh God, yes. So
David Lamb.
I'm not used to interviewing people that are like about to run out. So it's like, I'm like, wow, what am I doing? So I still have the three of you. So let's continue to talk about the symbiosis between the three companies. Janio and Adriana, have you guys worked together on any other projects besides Sancocho? And do you think you'll be working together in the future? There's a loaded question.
We're working together right now.
Yeah, we're working on Bees and Honey. We thought, I mean, we all know each other. So when you asked me, had we worked together? I mean, we had, but this was like the first, production co-partnership. Right. Yeah.
You know what? I completely forgot the other piece of the puzzle. How did WP Theater become part of this? Because it's basically in their space. Are they equal partners with you? What is the relationship? We're a producers organization, even though we have a lot of writers in the room. We're a producers organization, so we're interested in what structures are like and what the business structure is like for something like this.
So how the whole thing came about was very interesting because Rebecca Martinez, the director, had been working and developing this play with Christin from the get-go, and we wanted to continue working with her. Rebecca is part of the Soul Project Collective and one of their founders. So what we had to offer, and WP was considering, but they needed a little bit more kick. They needed a little bit more funding. And
yeah, you're allowed to say money. It's okay.
Yeah. And Rebecca had suggested Soul Project. I think Soul Project was always in the ether for us. And somehow it all worked out somehow by the grace of Rebecca Martinez, I believe.
Rebecca is a collective member of the Soul Project.
Yeah, she put the pieces together. We all met, we discussed it, and we decided to jump in.
Okay, well that's
I'm simplifying it, but
yeah, you simplify. But no, I mean, it really is a true collaboration.
It's a true collaboration. Yes, WP was a theater that we had been in conversation for a long time. We hadn't found the right play to produce together, and so it's just one of those things when the stars align. Yeah. So Rebecca's part of the collective. She had been working with Christin. I love Christin. Christin was a part of SolFest, and I was excited about getting on board as well. And since we're a collective, it's a decision, right, that we all have to agree to. And so, we have to read the play, and if everyone's on board, then we go for it. But there was, like I'm sure all of you know, there's that for help. It's really hard to produce something on your own. And so when it was like it was a labor of love, and it took three producers, right? 3 producing organizations to get this up.
And isn't Bees and Honey also with WP?
Yeah.
Bees and Honey is with MCC.
Oh, it's with the MCC. Okay. Oh, so you're expanding your horizons. So.
Soul has been with everybody.
Oh wow.
They are all over the place. They're getting the work done.
They produce around. Okay. So Susan Crawford, you have your hand up. So I have other questions for you guys, but let me ask Susan to ask her question. You can
I'm
turn your.
just- I'm just, oh, sorry, we have two computers going. My husband's taking the other one away. Okay. So the play I did last summer at Theater for the New City, I'm wondering if it's not a Hispanic show, strictly speaking, but once it was done, and you know, it could be cast interracially, but once it was done, I had wondered about having it done by different ethnic groups, because it would resonate differently in each community. It's very simply, it's a lottery play. It's a comedy. And the winner does not want the money. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to give away too much plot. And the family is apoplectic about this. So I just wondered if that's something that would resonate for you, or are you looking for strictly Latino themes?
Um,
You can answer.
so we're looking for stories for us by us.
Okay.
And similarly for the Soul Project, you know, the question has come up. It is for Latina writers, but the question always comes up: what does that mean, right? But we've had many conversations about it, and we still feel strongly the same way.
As what John just said, you're saying. Okay. All
So
right.
the takeaway though, I think Christian just got pulled out. So the takeaway for everybody though is to understand that you become part of a community, and more often than not right now in these days, it does take more than one company to start putting together the pieces. You can either be proactive about that when you get yourself involved in a company that is interested in your piece, or you can get a producer involved who will bring together more than one company. And it's basically the same as it is in the commercial world, where you just have to find a lot of different producers to get enough the resources together to be able to afford to make something happen. Kristen, are you still with us for a little while, or did they ask you to leave?
They're locking up now.
They are locking up. Okay,
They're locking up
could you quickly answer Elizabeth's question? I love the use of cooking
Of
as a theme.
course.
How did you technically include cooking in your play?
Because cooking is my family's like love language, and it was the only way I knew how to navigate what these characters wanted to say and give them something to do that's healing for them, because it's a play about healing, and that for me meant to cook and to nourish and to eat, and so I knew it had to be a food play.
And there actually is physical cooking happening in the play.
Yes.
And the audience gets to smell it at least.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna let you go because I don't want you to be locked in a building all night.
Thank you. I also sent a note, just like because I heard some like questions about like producing and like, you know, the steps and you know that it took, because I'm just like, because what Janio said that, you know, earlier about having that Sancocho was being developed in other places, it was too. So there was a lot of support and buzz around Sancocho before it had its Off-Broadway premiere too.
I'm going to actually ask Janio, because I know you have to leave, and
Yeah.
I don't know if we have still Adriana or not, but if LPC was part of the development project. Peace out.
Bye, everyone.
Peace out, Kristen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon. Janio, so were you involved in getting the productions that predated the LP, the women's the WP production? I see it started at the Playwrights Center and had its Midwest premiere in Chicago. Was that part of your doing, or did Kristen make that happen?
You mean, were we involved in the Playwright Center's workshop and the Visión Latina regional premiere?
Well, she said it had its Midwest premiere in Chicago. So I that was new information for me. I didn't realize that.
We were not involved in any of those, but but we do know them as companies, and we have worked with them before.
Did having the production in Chicago strengthen your position and your ability to raise the money that you needed to produce it here?
No, not at all.
Not at all. Okay, so it would have happened anyway, one way or the other, without the premiere in Chicago.
Yeah, I remember when we were negotiating the option, we were very lax in letting the Chicago one happen first, because we knew we didn't want to take that away from Christin as a playwright, but we also knew that it wasn't going to be a conflict. What we were going to do, it was a different production, and what we negotiated was for that to be the Midwestern premiere and for us to have the New York premiere.
Okay, so you know that there's premieritis raging through the regions. Everybody wants it to be, everything to be the world premiere. We're trying to tame that down. The New Playwrights Network and other companies are trying to get people to understand that a premiere can be a shared premiere. So essentially, what you had was a shared premiere. They were the. How did you frame it for WP? Obviously, it couldn't be a world premiere, but it was New York premiere. You're Adriana, you're muted, or you're not audible.
Couldn't hear you.
Make sure your mic is plugged in, or make sure everything's plugged in that's supposed to be plugged in, because you're not muted. So Janio, what I was just saying.
I'm gonna try to read Adriana's lips. I think so.
Oh, you could type it into the chat.
We all wanted different. I think we collaborated in everything. So I wanted the world premiere, but it just didn't, like the rest of the partners. I know specifically WP didn't feel right with the world premiere. At the end of the day, all we want is our credit, and it doesn't really matter.
It was off. I got it.
Off-Broadway premiere.
Off-Broadway premiere.
There you go.
Off-Broadway premiere. Okay.
Yeah.
Could have been the New York. Could have been the New York premiere. I mean, really. Did you have a prior relationship with WP, Janio, and do you see yourself working? Do you see LPC working with WP going forward?
I hope so. Yeah. I specifically did not have a relationship. I knew some of the folks that work at WP the same way I know people in the industry, but I never worked with them. But I think we did good work, and I think our relationship as co-producers worked out. I hope to work with them again.
Okay, and I think they hope to work with you too. I know Michael Sag is crazy about you guys. Michael's an old friend. I actually thought Michael might have a chance of having him have all three parts of the puzzle. So basically, the takeaway for everybody is collaboration. I think this is a conversation today about not only the path to an off-Broadway production, but also the fact that be prepared or be proactive about creating collaborations, because it takes a lot of people to make any kind of theater happen. Lord knows. What is your plan right now, Janio? What else now that Sancocho is closed? What's happening with you're going to continue your workshop, but you also have other things in the pipeline in terms of producing.
So many. So we're catching.
We have time. Let me know. Name them.
Yeah. Well, I know Adriana had to leave. Can we hear you?
Yeah, I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Yeah. Okay, so before I say goodbye to everybody, so we currently have Bees and Honey at MCC. We're in previews right now, and we open on the 21st. So if anyone wants to come, we have a discount code. It's called SOL, S-O-L, Familia. And there's a lot of events also that we're collaborating with DC. So if anyone's in town, we'd love to have you there.
Is it possible for you to type your website in so that people can go on the website and see everything that's going on?
I will definitely do that. Yes. Yes. And I know someone asked about Marga. We've actually, with LTC and Encuentro and stuff like that, Marga has been part of the Encuentro many
That's
times.
Marga Gomez.
Marga Gomez.
Catherine
yeah,
was
Yeah, I
thank
saw
you.
that.
And let's see, what else was in here? Scott Sublett wants to know, he teaches screenwriting at San Jose University. If he comes across any Latinx writers, how can he connect them with you? I mean, and would you actually be willing to have screenwriters come on board?
Yeah, actually, we do. A lot of our playwrights are screenwriters as well.
Okay, Yoni wants to ask a question. he's come on
Hi.
screen. He's not
Hi,
driving
can you hear
now.
me well?
Yes.
No, not driving. I'm wondering, you talked about collaboration, but I do wonder when you have not necessarily nonprofits, but organizations that deal with one community like yourself, how do you navigate when you try to raise funds for competing projects or competing concepts from the same community when it's one community?
Honestly, funds are scarce as it is, and a lot of times within a community, one project goes over the other because there's only the one spot that they'll give to our community specifically. However, as sad as that is for us, a growing organization, we celebrate anything that gets to be produced that tells our stories. So from our perspective, any one Latinx company, production, play, event that gets produced because of whatever specific funding gets given to it, we cherish that and we celebrate it. I like it to be us, and I'm happy to collaborate with anyone. But if Soul Project were to get it, I will absolutely congratulate them and help them out in any way we can.
I have another collaboration question for you guys. How have you do you have contracts that sort of stipulate how your decisions are made? If Soul has a perspective that's different from LPC, from WP, how do you work out the solutions if you don't agree on certain aspects? Possibly you haven't had that come up. You may have agreed on everything up till now, but how would you deal with that if one company wanted something different than another company wanted?
I mean, that always happens. We did come up with an agreement through WP and through Michael Sag. And
Michael Sack, former general manager, perfect
Yeah.
person to create the contracts.
He really is. And we worked it out until we all agreed.
So the agreement was worked out before you started the production. So you had everything signed, and you had stipulations in your contract about how disagreements would be handled.
Right.
Okay.
And Michael was really wonderful. It was such a great experience for us because everything was said and discussed early.
Well,
So
it's interesting. Just talking to you guys, I may have gotten the wrong impression, but my impression is, Janio, is that your perspective really leans heavily towards the creative. Adriana, your Soul Project seems to lean heavily towards financing and the practical aspects of things. And I know WPA with Michael, they obviously knew all the details of the legalities and the contracts involved. So in a way, I think it probably was a perfect collaboration until you tell me that, oh, we knew all that too.
No, I think we all did everything.
We did everything. Yeah, there was no line.
No delegation like that.
No delegation like that.
Oh, I was thinking of the
we're all very
delegation. I was
involved.
just thinking in terms of strengths and how you happen to make such a good collaboration, the three of you.
We're all three very creative. I probably would say maybe because we're dealing with Michael, we don't have the luxury of having an artistic director and a managing director, because we're not a theater. So it was artistic and everything else.
Yeah, I know. Basically, WPA has a real infrastructure, a genuine infrastructure, something that I long for.
Thank you so much. I have to go, but it was a pleasure. I put my website on there. And, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Adriana. I appreciate it. It was great meeting you. I know that was a last minute ability to be with us, and I think it was great to have you. It's especially fortuitous since I didn't know that Christin was going to have to leave early. Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Okay,
I want to
Janio.
answer Scott Sublet real quick. Scott, if you do come across any Latinx, young Latinx playwright, please send us to our website. We do our Sunday service, which are what Christin described as kikis. That is basically our Sunday meetings bi-monthly, where artists come in, playwrights come in, they give 10 pages and we work on it as a group. So that is the foundation of our company, and that's our group meetings, and we do that mostly on Zoom. So anyone from anywhere in the country or the world can join in. So if they reach out to us, we'll give them the information. Our goal is for everybody within the Latinx community, anyone that writes, anyone that identifies as a playwright, screenwriter, anyone that has work in and storytellers they want to stories that they want to tell is welcome.
Well, that's good to know. But the other thing is, everybody, we all have to find our own communities, and the reason why Latinx Playwright Circle and Sol are really seeking to support members of the Latinx community. It makes perfect sense. We all have to find the communities for ourselves. I know I say this knowing that all of us have such a hard time finding opportunities. In general, there are more opportunities for non-BIPOC writers and artists. I know it's hard for us to find them, and also it's very competitive, and so it's not easy for anyone. But having groups that are dedicated to supporting the Latinx community, or any group that really focuses on helping BIPOC voices be amplified, it's part of the work that we all have to do right now to get our stage, our theater, our art to better represent our people. So we just send good wishes and blessings to everybody that's doing good work in supporting artists. And I see that Catherine Keith is going to be sending Tina Delia to you pronto from San Francisco. Any other questions, guys, before we close up? Owen, were there any questions that I missed? I don't think so.
I didn't see any.
Okay. So thank you, Janio. By the way, we open up breakout rooms so that people can hang out and meet each other. If you want to stay, that would be great. If you can't, it's understandable as well. But before people come back on, I have to go into speaker view and say my farewells to my podcast audience and my YouTube audience. And also just to let everybody know that we do have lots of interesting people coming in over the next couple of weeks. Ongoing every Friday, there's going to be somebody. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence. We're going to talk about, I can't think of everything coming up. So be part of us. If you want to be in the room, email me at trunltd@aol.com, trunltd@aol.com. And here comes the pitch. We do this free. We've been doing this as a community service since shutdown. Now that we're no longer in shutdown, now that we're going live with other programs, our expenses are increasing. We have to pay for venues now. We have to pay for other physical pieces of paper and things that you don't need when you're doing virtual. So if you could support us, we'd appreciate it. Go to trudonate.com, trudonate.com, and somebody like Jay or Owen will type that into the chat for you if anybody wants to help out. Okay. So again, thank you for being with us today. Hope to see you in the weeks to come. And that's it. I'll cut here. Bye.